Welcome back, guys. I'm Jake Ellenbogen. He is Gary Sheffield Jr., and you are watching Yankees Unloaded. The Yankees lost 5-4 today against the Cincinnati Reds. First game of a 3-game set at the stadium. Before we dive into that, be sure to like, subscribe, and comment, and be sure to follow us on all social media at JK Bogan, at Gary Sheffield Jr., and of course at Yankees Unloaded. So Gary, we'll start it off the good. Aaron Judge 32nd home run, which that thing was gone before it felt like it hit the seats before he even finished his swing. That ball was an absolute rope, which is you love to see that. And
he's on fire. Seven hits his last 5 games. He's just not getting out.
Yeah, at this point, anyone who is questioning. Because again, I've said this before, I'll say it again. There are still people out there, mainly Orioles fans, that want to say, well, there has to be a discussion for Gunnar Henderson. And I got to be honest with you. I don't care how well Gunnar Henderson is playing, and I don't care that he plays shortstop. There's no discussion, okay? To me, a discussion you have to be able to make an argument. There is no argument to be made over Aaron Judge. He right now is the American League Triple Crown guy. Okay. He's leading every category just about. And again, doesn't mean Gunnar Henderson is having a bad year. He's having a great year. But
he's going to drive in 100. He's going to play Gold Glove defense at shortstop. And then plus Baltimore right now is leading us. They won again today against Seattle, low scoring game, 2-0. But Gunnar Henderson, clearly this year, he's their best player. So I totally understand you want the validation, especially for what he's doing. But if you're looking at Aaron Judge, there's no one in the big leagues that's giving this type of output. How many people thought Aaron Judge would be hitting 320 today? Nobody. He was hitting like $150 the first half of the season, or the first month of the season. Everyone's wondering, like, who is this guy? We brought in Juan Soto. Like, here we go again. We get a bad year from Aaron Judge. And we said on this show, you can't just chalk up Aaron Judge to return to form. Like it could be the toe, right? It could be some type of lat issue that we've talked about. And you fast forward a month and a half, he's the best player on the planet. It is what it is, right? And sorry, Gunnar Henderson, this is just the wrong time to have a career year, and maybe next year, I guess.
Yeah, Shohei Ohtani went through it, and he was playing both sides, and Judge still won the MVP, which rightfully so. I don't think anybody deserved to win the MVP that year. And hate to break it to you, if Judge does better this year, which he is on pace to do, than the year he had 62, I don't think anybody should win over him this year. And definitely not with the Triple Crown. And, the fascinating thing is a lot of people forget he was really close to getting the Triple Crown. And then he started falling off towards the end of the year, really trying to push for that 62. You could see him over pursuing. He really wanted it. He won't say that, but we all saw it. It got to the point where it was like the end of home run derby, where they're down to their final out or whatever, and you just see them trying to take the biggest hack, and it just doesn't.
Yeah, he ran out of gas.
Over well. Yeah, absolutely.
And let's be clear, the Yankees lineup also, they don't necessarily have a ton of depth historically. I've never thought that. I've never looked at the New York Yankees lineup and thought, even in our days of the Gary Sanchez hitting like 35 bombs, at no point did I think any of those lineups were really the best way to protect Aaron Judge. But you look around the league, you talk about Shohei Ohtani. For the first part of the season, he had Mookie Betts, Freddie Freeman. There's a lot of talent there. And Aaron Judge is hitting behind Juan Soto, not in front of him. Okay, so he's the one doing the protecting. Aaron Judge is the man. That's just what it is. And guys, for whatever reason, are still pitching to him, given what Alex Verdugo is doing in the 4 spot right now. His ops has slipped below 700. He's hitting 241. And conversations have started. I really wanted to talk about this, Jake, about what we do at the 4 spot, because people have to remember where we were before the Giancarlo injury. Now, that was considered a platoon situation. Giancarlo Stanton always hitting 4th against left-handed pitching. Right-handed pitching, we gave that Verdugo look in the 4 spot, and we slid Giancarlo down to the 5 spot. That's what we were doing. And at the time, it was working. And I thought in general, there was so much pedigree between those two guys, especially with what was in front of them, that it was just working, and there was just much less pressure on Alex Verdugo to give an output. But right now, For the past 15 games, Verdugo's hitting under 200. You got Volpe hitting under 200. DJ LeMahieu, Trevino, all hitting under 200 the past 15, 30 games. So there's so much pressure right now on Alex Verdugo, and he's falling short clearly. And I'm not exactly sure what to do with it other than considering Ben Rice, given what he's doing. And Jake, you were very high on Ben Rice before he was ever called up to this team. Ben Rice is an athletic. He's an athletic bat who has the ability to make adjustments. And overall, he's got energy. It seems like he's a pro already. You would never know this is a first-year player. You would never know this is a rookie. And I just think right now, given the type of production Verdugo is giving us, I think whether or not you want to slide Ben Rice all the way up to the leadoff spot with that athleticism, or you want to slot him in the 4 spot behind Aaron Judge, I'm curious, Jake, what you think about this, because I'm cool leaving Volpe up at leadoff. He's just got to figure it out. We might want to consider Ben Rice in the 4 spot. I think I'm good with that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not one of those people that's gonna, quickly jump off of, an opinion that, you and I have essentially held all year. We fought against the rabid wolves about people saying that, Anthony Volpe is the reason they went on that losing streak. He shouldn't be hitting, and it's the reason that like just moving him moving him into the leadoff spot was a reason. As if like Glaber was good in the leadoff spot, which is the thing I always laugh at. But, the reality is he has not hit well. And it's not the simple choice to be like, yeah, you know what, Volpe, like, let's just give you a break. We'll move you down the order and we'll have someone else lead off. No, like you're making a decision there that, you might also low key, and people need to think about this. I mean, the shortstop for the New York Yankees who's leading off, people think of Derek Jeter. And
right.
The moment he's not leading off anymore, that's a demotion. Whether you want to admit it or not, he has the most at bats on the team because he hits first. But if you send him down in the lineup, that is a demotion in his second year. Where, say what you will, as much as he struggled as of late, he's had a very good season. Okay, compared to last year, this is leaps and bounds. This is a way different hitter. I think right now, and I said this and, really teased this at the beginning of the year, this is what I was hoping not to see, but really felt like when Volpe does struggle, he is going to revert back to the things that, made him struggle last year. We've seen that. And guess what? That's normal for a young baseball player, especially in his second season. So I understand some people will look at this like, well, we're losing games while we're just trying to basically save face with Volpe and hope he turns it around. And I would just say, I mean, it takes more than one player on this team. I understand it doesn't help, but I'm not going to sit here and put this entire game on Volpe for going 0 for 5 in the leadoff spot. It didn't help, and the at bats haven't been great as of late. But what about when the at bats were great? We took them for granted, and I feel like that's just kind of the commonality of it. So what I would say is that if anybody was going to bat leadoff over Volpe, it would have to be an athletic bat. Somebody that can obviously make plays, when he's out on the base paths.
Keyword athletic.
Yeah, athletic. But also, I would want a contact bat. And if you're really doing the research into the Yankees right now, there's only one guy that fits. I mean, really only one, because, as much as I love Austin Wells and I would prefer he doesn't pinch hit and just actually plays.
Who should be starting, by the way.
Yeah, I just don't think Austin Wells has the contact that you're going to get out of Ben Rice.
Oh,
so
absolutely.
I think when you're looking at, I mean, Ben Rice has a chance to be really, really good. And I mean, I said Brandon Belt, and I stick by that. And anybody that says that that's ridiculous or, that's not that great, go and watch Brandon Belt in his prime, because he was a good player, all-star. So, Gary, I'll say this. If Ben Rice came out as the, leadoff man tomorrow, I think the Yankees might even be better off in the short term. But what does that do for Volpe in the long term? How does that, maybe Volpe goes down a cliff? Maybe that kills his confidence. I'm not willing to go to that level yet. So I think to your point, in the cleanup spot, I mean, why was Verdugo in the cleanup spot to begin with? Because he was the contact bat. He was
He
just the
was.
guy that would put the
Yep.
ball in play. Well, now when he puts it in play, the ball is like LeMahieu. I mean, he barely hits it. He hits these dribblers. He
He's finding
smacks it
gloves
right
right
into
now.
the ground.
Yeah.
It's not great. So I think Rice, just that plain swing, getting the bat on the ball, working the count, and then that speed. I definitely think he should, be in the top four in the lineup. And I mean, that's until, of course, once Stanton is back, and then you have that conversation. Do you want Stanton at 5? Do you want him at 4? Do you want Rice at 5? Whatever. But I think that's kind of the direction you have to go in right now. And I think today kind of proved that.
Okay, I mean that's fair, but really think about it, Jake. So and I totally agree with you, by the way. I think in general, if you move Anthony Volpe, who I know you talk about that he's leaps and bounds better than he was last year, but and trust me when I tell you, in terms of swing quality, it's hard to say now because obviously he's not getting hits. Hard contact today the other way. It was obviously found a glove, unfortunate. But with Anthony Volpe, if you remember, Jake, on Yankees Unloaded on our show earlier this year, I said Anthony Volpe may be hitting, but there's certain things I need to see improve. Maybe not to be promoted up to the leadoff spot because we clamored for that, but for me to consider him to have arrived in this league. And that thing, the main thing I needed to see from him was plate discipline. Swinging at quality pitches inside the strike zone was always going to be the determining factor of whether or not I thought Anthony Volpe panned out to being the superstar he was projected to be. Not a good player in this league, a star. And Anthony Volpe absolutely was protected as though he was a superstar in this league at some point or another in the future. And Jake, when you talk about plate discipline, a lot of times I like to, instead of just making projections, I like to just look at the numbers and have those tell me the story. So last year, you would say that Anthony Volpe clearly swung at a lot of pitches outside the strike zone. He was not taking his walks. He couldn't necessarily figure out with his uppercut swing which pitches to take to pull the trigger on, which ones not to. He walked 52 times last year. His batting average was 209. His on base was 283. So obviously you'd consider that a disappointing rookie season. Not horrible, but not exactly what we were hoping for. But he played all year, and something we gave Boone and this staff in general credit because you need to improve out there by playing. So you fast forward to this year. We're about approaching the All-Star break. And you'd say, okay, what would be for 52 walks? What's half of that? Considering he played all of last year, what would be half of that number? Yeah, around 26, right? How many walks do you think he's got so far this year?
26. Well, you're saying that. Yeah, I was going to say.
26,
sounds like 26,
Jake. So you would think to yourself, well, he's absolutely flattening out that swing, and flattening out your swing will help you put the ball in play and make higher quality contact. Something that I absolutely would agree with, right? And you'd think if you make those type of adjustments, he must be a leadoff hitter. Okay, we move him to leadoff. He struck out last year 167 times in his 159 games played. This year, we've played about half the season. What would be about 167 cut in half? He's struck out 87 times this year. It hasn't improved, okay? So while I absolutely believe Anthony Volpe's swing has improved in this game, I think his plate discipline has improved absolutely zero. No improvement whatsoever. And whether or not he's going to make solid contact, I think that's solely dependent on the type of pitches he receives in that at bat. If he's pitched outside the strike zone, he struggles. If he gets fastballs inside the strike zone, he succeeds. It was the same last year. It's the same this year. Now I'm very pleased in general with some glimmers and some every once in a while you'll see the version of Anthony Volpe on a day where you'll just say, this is clearly the player that they envision. But when you take a step back and look at the numbers of what he's doing and the things he needs to improve at, he's not improving at those things. Now, you can be happy with the swing changes. I'm happy with the swing change. I didn't want to see uppercuts. but the numbers don't, they tell a story here. His on base is 311. It's not very good. Okay. So
Yeah.
we need to get honest about the type of player so far Anthony Volpe has given us in terms of output, not who you think he can be. He has to get better. We can talk all day long about who should be hitting fourth, where Ben Rice should be in the lineup. It doesn't matter. When your leadoff hitter and you're talking about he's made massive improvements, and then you take a step back and look at the numbers, and the numbers suggest it's been minimal. It really hasn't been a major improvement. That's disappointing to me. And that's part of the reason why I absolutely validate anyone who thinks, okay, Ben Rice, maybe we can slide him up to leadoff. Hell, maybe you throw, I mean, I don't know who you throw up there. Gleyber Torres has been swinging a decent bat of late. You throw him up there for some confidence. Who knows? But right now, this right here, we're talking about a 30-game stretch. That's a long stretch of a lack of production. You're not winning a ton of games and talking about a juggernaut offense when your leadoff hitter is not hitting.
Yeah, that's tough. And so where are you at right now? Would you keep him in at leadoff, or would you swap him out now?
You know, the crazy part, so to answer your question short and sweet, I would move him. And I will say this. People are going to take that answer of, oh, you'd move him off of leadoff means you're off of him permanently. Like this is you giving up on this player. And I'll say this. I'm going to use the example that I've seen in the NFL many times. I've seen it plenty where there's a quarterback in the NFL, he's getting hit a lot. And before you know it, he's seeing ghosts out there, right? And people ask all the time, well, why didn't they pull him off the field? That young player who was trying to develop, he's shell-shocked out there. Pulling him back and relieving him of some responsibility off the team can be to his benefit in the long run. In my opinion, I'm not protecting Anthony Volpe like he's the next Derek Jeter. He is not that. He never will be that. So my opinion is that you relieve Anthony Volpe of some responsibility offensively, and it'll help him. And you need to get very honest with what he needs to improve at, because it's clear right now we're looking at the same thing. The same things that he was struggling at last year, he is struggling right now. It's the same player. This past 30 games is 2023 Anthony Volpe. And it's not necessarily about whether line drives find gloves or not, because he has plenty more hits this year at this stage of the season than he did last year. But you would think that would amount to a much higher on base percentage, a much higher, like just in general, you would say, oh, okay, he's obviously not going to be striking out as much. His swing's not an uppercut. You would think these things. He came into the season telling us, yeah, I want to take better pitches. I want to see better pitches. I want to get deeper into counts. That must amount, right, to more walks. He must be going deeper into counts. He's not. Okay, so there was a point, Jake, in the season, we went 25 days. He didn't walk once. That's a
Yeah.
player that's just not buying into what he's not excelling at. So I give him the demotion. I promote somebody right now, because you have to remember, we have got to win games until Giancarlo Stanton comes back. It's not enough to just leave everybody where they're at and just wait around.
No, I get that. I think I think I'd flip a coin. It really depends on the day. I mean, I think no, I
That's
mean,
fun.
to be honest with you, I'm like, you made a compelling argument. And I mean, to be fair, yes, it sends a message like, okay, this is a demotion, but at the same time, I mean, you think about what good it did for Gleyber Torres, to get benched, and who knows about Anthony Rizzo, because the first game he came back, he got injured. So yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be against it. I'll tell you that. I think right now I am less as like I'm not fighting for him to be the leadoff hitter now. I'm just kind of like just win a game. Um, I think Ben Rice is just the better hitter right now. That's the funny thing is I watch Ben Rice and I just don't see him as a rookie who's being called up in the middle of the season. All
Is
this
there a
pressure
reason
on
that you
him.
think that? Because I kind of agree with you, but I also want you to expand on that, because you're
Well,
saying that Ben Rice feels like he's a pro. And what is it that you're seeing?
Well, he's older for starters. Volpe didn't get as much time. in AAA. And I mean, neither did Ben Rice, to be fair, but I think Ben Rice was like a seasoned AA guy. Like Ben Rice was there. He'd been there, done that. And the big thing about him is everywhere he went, he succeeded. There was no, and that just tells me that's not like, oh, he gets these guys, he's figured them out. No, no, no. His approach is the same every single at bat. There will be sometimes, okay, he misses on a pitch. He thought he was going to hit it. He chases a little bit out of the zone. Very rarely, though. I mean, today's strikeout, like you just normally don't see that from him. And he is so comfortable in the role that he's in right now. He is totally fine serving it into right field and scoring a run instead of trying to play hero ball with a runner on first and third, trying to go for the home run and whiffing, right? You got to get somebody home. And so that is what I've noticed with Rice is that it's a more consistent contact. And I think the quality of contact he has is better than most guys on the roster. It feels like every time he hits it, when do you see him hitting a soft liner? Everything is just a rocket, right up the middle or, pulling it to the right or, an opposite field shot into left field. I mean, he hasn't hit a home run yet. That's his only knock. But we don't care about that. Like, I don't need
He's
him
not
to hit
hitting
home
homers,
runs.
and we're complimenting his game. He's
Yeah.
he's a guy of adjustments. You know what at bat really stuck out to me from Ben Rice this week? So we had a guy at second base. Now, clearly, you want to pull the ball in this situation. Nobody out. You really want to pull the ball and allow, at the very least, a quality out to get over to third base and let somebody else drive in that run. Some team baseball. Well, he didn't
Yeah.
execute, right? Soft fly ball out to left field. He was incredibly upset with himself. And part of what he was upset at was that he got a pitch away ahead in the count. And he said to himself, yeah, and he ends up offering at this pitch and goes to left field. It's exactly what the defense wanted. They pitched to that, right? And that's how Major League Baseball teams kind of outthink you, especially as a young player. But then you fast forward to today. He gets ahead of the count. He gets another pitch, middle away. He doesn't even swing at it. Now, a lot of people on TV are probably watching and thinking, what's he not offering at that for? Why wouldn't you be swinging at that pitch? Then the very next pitch is on the inner half of the plate, and he's pulling that ball. So that's
Yeah.
just a baseball player who's understanding what's in front of him. You're going to make mistakes. If you think these guys with good coaching are just never going to make mistakes, completely unrealistic. You have to ask players, you make a mistake, we don't think you have plate discipline. Well, when I see you in 6 months, in some aspect, your discipline has to improve, right? And so for Ben Rice, the thing that he failed at early in games or maybe last week, he's going to succeed at it this week. And I'll tell you one thing, and this is the thing that really excites me about this player. It actually reminds me of a young Bryce Harper. Now, is he going to be Bryce Harper? No. Is effort. Effort. You see it every day. If he touches the field, there's days they just pull him out the lineup. He's not playing. But you put him in there, he's running. Okay? And yeah, he's athletic, right? Speed's a part of his game. But he can hit a chopper to second base, and it's a close play. Is he ever going to beat any of those out? No. He's never going to beat him out. But you know who else hits ground balls to second base who's also not going to beat him out, and he probably shouldn't beat him out, but he's also not running, is Alex Verdugo. Did you see that play in the 7th inning today? He had a ground ball to second base. He was practically walking. He looked like he could have been in a wheelchair and just rolled him down to first base. It's unacceptable effort. And this is part of the reason that
you can't just Cora, be like, maybe it's unacceptable for Glaber, but then it's okay for Verdugo because he was hitting, because that's kind of what we did. And I mean, I'm guilty of that. I mean, I never really pointed it out, but yeah, I mean, I really do agree with that. I think it's definitely something. I know you want to get back to the Verdugo point, so I don't want to go too off here, but I really think right now, Ben Rice is turning into one of the more reliable hitters, not just like the time being, but we've seen all year.
Yeah. And in general, I'm not going to grill Alex Verdugo because for me personally, I still think that there's something there with Alex Verdugo. I don't think his story in New York is done. In general, I like the style of play and the overall fit of Verdugo. I think he's been excellent in left field, not just good. He's been superb. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Great arm, phenomenal reads. Everything about him in left field has been spectacular. And offensively, I thought it was a breath of fresh air, more contact, much better left-handed appearances than we've seen in years past. We asked for exactly that. But of course, when a guy's slumping, it doesn't look good. It never feels good. But I will say this: Ben Rice is hitting 270. His ops is 715. He's not blowing our doors off here, but the way he goes about his business is what's blowing our doors off. That is compelling. When you see a guy who feels like he's making an impact, you want him up there, and he's not even giving you his potential yet. He's hitting 270. You wouldn't think that we would be asking for a guy hitting 270. Why don't we figure out how to get him to lead off? We wouldn't be doing that, but it's how he's doing it. He's doing it through adjustments. He's doing it through athleticism. And we asked for Volpe to hit leadoff largely because of his athleticism. Well, if you're not going to draw a walk for a month, well, then like you're making it really difficult on me, who was asking for you to be in that position. So right now,
Yeah.
Jake, I just think in general, when people talk about the Yankees' lack of depth, the guys that are put into these positions through a promotion, like leadoff for the New York Yankees and shortstop of the Yankees, you got to perform. And if you're not performing, it puts so much pressure on guys who are hitting in the 5 spot, like Gleyber Torres or a DJ LeMahieu, who are hitting down the 6 and 7 spot. You're now asking them to perform. That's your job, to go out there and get on base for Juan Soto and Aaron Judge. And if you're not doing that, we have got to come up with a solution for guys that will.
No, I think that's definitely fairly put. And in addition to that, something to keep in mind, Volpe has a 695 OPS now. Okay.
Yeah.
Ben Rice has a 715. Ben Rice has not hit a home run. So he's already at a disadvantage. OPS tends to really help guys that hit home runs. Their slugging percentage goes up and everything. So we're not even really seeing, the boost in that. And he's still over 700, whereas Volpe is now falling out of the 700. So look, I don't want to base everything on OPS. I like I said, I'm 50-50. If you want to take Volpe out, it just better be Ben Rice. If you're taking him out and you're putting in like LeMahieu, I'm going to throw up. If you're taking him out and putting Gleyber Torres, I think, if it's not broke, don't fix it. I think that would hurt Gleyber Torres right now. I think you're getting into some sort of rhythm with him. Keep him at 5, 6 in the order. So, then when you really think about it, when those guys are already, used up, and obviously LeMahieu is not, in his year where he was top 5 in MVP voting, there's not any other options. It's Ben Rice or nothing. And I guess that's
Yeah,
really
but
what I'm getting at is like,
what if Volpe's not hitting in 20 games? Think of it that way. If we go 20 games now, I'm absolutely rooting for Volpe to continue hitting, right? Like to
yeah,
get back on it, and then we don't have to talk about this anymore. But what if he's just gone 30 games with a lack of production? What if he goes 20 more and Gleyber Torres is still hitting? Now, Gleyber Torres is a player we still said the Yankees should move at some point in the deadline. We just don't see a future there long term. But what if Gleyber Torres is the only guy hitting and he's hitting down 5 or 6? Well, then I'm supposed to leave a guy who, because you considered him to be like the next Derek Jeter or maybe something slightly below that, I'm supposed to leave him there for his ego? I can't do that. I wanted him at
no.
leadoff, but the production's got to back that. Okay. And once it doesn't over an extended period of time, and then somebody else down the lineup is hitting 5 or 6, and maybe they catch a hot bat for a month, well, then maybe I've got to ride that hot hand, because Baltimore is winning now. There's no losing streak we were talking about. Remember when they won like 4 games of their last 10? Yeah, those days are over. Baltimore's back to winning. So we need to find which of these guys in our lineup are a part of the winning equation. I think a lot of people agree Austin Wells over Trevino, right? Some of these little adjustments that we can make in our lineup. But frankly, if you leave people in their position because of what you hope them to be, we're going to lose ourselves some games that we really need.
No, I definitely agree with you. And, I think that's something that is fascinating. What's also kind of fascinating is that, don't look now, Jazz Chisholm would not be a bad leadoff hitter right now. And neither would Ren Figo, or I forget however you say his name, but he's hitting over 300. So yeah, we'll see what ends up happening. I'm not, going to sit here and act like Volpe doesn't have it in him to bounce back, because I feel like a lot of people are already starting to be that, and that's fine. I guess you can, but I definitely think Ben Rice has been turning heads since he came up. And even when he was getting out, those at bats were so much better than guys that were getting on. So I'm just really impressed with his approach. 25
Can I
years
just tell
old.
you the craziest stat that just blew my mind, Jake?
What's that?
Do you remember how we were just talking about Anthony Volpe and my whole problem with him? Everything else is excellent. The glove, right?
Yeah.
When he does make contact, excellent type of contact. Like his contact he does make is really good. But we were talking about his lack of plate discipline and overall strikeouts are still a little high, given that he told us he was trying to flatten out his swing. Well, remember we were talking about 87 strikeouts and like 27 walks?
Yeah.
Yeah, Jazz Chisholm in 2024, 87 strikeouts, 27 walks. Pretty much
No
identical.
way.
I swear to you.
That's wild.
Now, more pop, clearly, right?
Yeah.
But
But I mean,
and
right
more
now you would
like
take
I
Jazz
mean,
Chisholm though.
yeah, right this second I probably would, especially with the defensive versatility. Now, would I trade him straight up? No, I wouldn't. But um that's crazy. So it kind of just goes to show you, like in general, the Yankees need a little bit more discipline. Like athleticism's awesome, but if you are only going to walk 40 times a year, well, how much does it matter that you can run, right? I need to be able to trust you in big at bats to not swing at pitches outside the strike zone in a league where guys are throwing 102. It's hard to swing at strikes. Like this is no easy task. So I say all that to say this: the New York Yankees, they've got some guys in their lineup in positions of trust that, frankly, they're not getting an improvement where they had to improve. Right now, they have to be honest with themselves with the type of production Anthony Volpe's delivering. I'm super high on Volpe for the future, but that doesn't mean that I won't criticize certain areas of his game that we were told were improving and just they haven't.
No, I hear you, man. And speaking of another young gun that I mean has done wonders this year. He actually became today the first Yankee rookie pitcher since Masahiro Tanaka to get to 100
Ooh,
strikeouts before the All
who's
Star
that?
break, and that's Luis Heel.
Ooh,
So
nice.
yeah, since 2014. Now,
Okay.
you and we talked off air about this, and we won't go too much into it because I don't really think there's a ton to say. I don't feel like he pitched enough. I didn't really feel like we got a big sample size of Luis Heel, but I mean, before you knew it, he was at 85 pitches. It was the fourth inning, and then he was
Yeah, you
taken
didn't
out
like the
for
hook today.
no. Let's talk about that because I don't think Heel pitched that bad. I also don't think
Okay.
he pitched that good. I just thought it was kind of like an okay outing. Um, I think he missed inside twice. Not obviously wasn't trying to plunk that one dude that he was up 0-2 in the count. Um, and I think, Boone pulled him and, didn't give him a fair shot. I thought he deserved to be able to work out of that. And to put in Caleb Ferguson, I think that cost him the game. If you want my blunt, honest answer, I don't think Heel gives up those 2 runs. I don't think Heel gives up a home run. And I think Caleb Ferguson played his Lou Trevino card where you just give up runs that really don't even, fall back on you. And it bothers me like to another level because, here we are, we're holding, Gonzalez accountable for how hard guys are hitting him, but he's not giving up tons of runs. He's not giving up tons of hits. But then this guy, it's like Caleb Ferguson, who you also got via trade with the Dodgers, mind you. He hasn't really done jack shit. I mean, I don't understand why people are so, or not people, but the Yankees are so obsessed with just trying to figure this thing out because look, sometimes you make a purchase, maybe you buy back in the day, you go to GameStop and you buy that game that's used that your friend said you'd love. You put in $20, okay? $20 is not going to break the bank for a video game. Maybe back in the day it would. But you play the $20 game and you realize, you know what? This game may have had the potential because my friend talked it up. But the reality of the situation is this game's buns. I don't like it. It doesn't help. It's really, it's not for me. And I'm done wasting my time. And think about it, when you're spending that time on that game, you're taking away the time that you could be playing another game. And if you're going back to like when you were a kid, then you're talking about, wow, well, I have limited time being a kid. I have limited time. I have homework to do. I have clubs. I have all that. Why am I going to waste my time playing this $20 game? I only spent $20 on it. It's not like it was a $60 game.
That was the
So
best analogy ever.
that's how I feel right now. Okay. About Caleb Ferguson. All right.
Yeah.
That is how I feel. I mean, Caleb Ferguson, I'm going to take this a step further. Caleb Ferguson is Kingdoms of Alamur. Okay. Oh, Kingdom. Yeah. Okay. Maybe it had potential at one point, but when you finally you sat down and play it, I'm sure somebody out there is going to hate me for that because they liked it. But
well, it's the internet. They'll hate you.
I didn't like the game. Okay. I thought it was boring. I know Kurt Schilling put a lot of money, revenue or whatever, like investing in that game, and that, it is what it is. But the reality is the game was not very good, in my opinion. And yeah, okay, I actually bought it for like $20, and I thought it was a total ripoff at $20. So I was like, no. Yeah. So you know what I did? I didn't play it again. The Yankees, I mean,
that was how you took your win.
They see, this is the thing. Caleb Ferguson, they got him for maybe like $15 at GameStop, right? Not even 20. And despite the fact it has all sorts of scratches on the disc, and every time you play it, it will crash, and you lose your saved data and it'll corrupt and all that, but you keep playing it anyway, thinking, you know what, maybe one of these days it won't skip as much, or it won't crash or whatever. Or maybe one of these days the game might actually be fun. Well, the reality is, the game's not fun. You can't get over the fact you spent $15 when it doesn't matter. $15 is nothing for a game. And Caleb Ferguson is the gift that keeps on giving, and not in a good way, okay? Caleb Ferguson right now has a 1.56 whip, okay?
Yeah, sometimes it was a deal to get him because of that.
5.67. So, what the hell are we doing? How are you going to send down Marinaccio? How are you going to DFA? I mean, even Santana at that point. Santana had better numbers. Not much better, but better.
But they were slightly better. Yeah.
Caleb Ferguson has been like this the whole effing year. What are we doing? It is July. I don't want to hear, well, they're waiting to make a deal at the deadline. Why do they have to wait? I mean, here's the analogy. Back to the game, right? I don't have to sit there. If I don't like the $19 game I bought at GameStop, I don't have to keep playing it until a new one comes out. If I don't like it, I could switch to another game. So I look at the farm system. You got all sorts of guys. Okay. You got Yuendris Gomez, who again pitched 5 scoreless innings out of the bullpen, picked up your bullpen when you needed it, and you reward him by sending him down. And you have Clayton Beater, who now everyone is just looking at like he's this expendable guy to just trade away for Nathan Eovaldi and David Robertson. Okay.
Oh, the two dominant arms that you
dominant arms. Are you freaking kidding me? Anyway, my point. You've gotten it to the point where now people don't even know who he is. Like, there are guys that are pitching well in AAA, AA, whatever. There are guys, there are options. And it's like, why do they continue to trot out Ferguson? I mean, that guy looks like he has no confidence. He would not be the main character of his own story. He has no confidence.
Month is August? Do you realize that, Jake?
Yes.
Next month is August. Okay. So if you got to a baseball season and you told somebody, hey, we're in August, someone would imply, oh, yeah, we're in the nitty gritty of the season. Gun to your head, do you think Caleb Ferguson's on this roster in August?
I mean, I hope not, but I think that they are so sold that he has this stuff that's just going to magically find itself. I'm not saying your whip and your ERA. Yeah. I'm not saying your whip and your ERA is what you are in July, because, I mean, he could absolutely go on a tear. But we already saw him go on a tear, and it was a light tear. It was like 12 innings of like no hit or no shut, total shutout ball. And now he's back.
Including his tear, his ERA is 5.67. Okay. It's 2/3 of the time he pitches, he gives up a run.
Jake Cousins got sent down immediately when he had that 3-run inning.
Oh,
right?
yeah, we made a whole video about him. He gave up, like, 2 runs, and they just sent him packing for a month and a half and said, "Well, he needs to work on something." Okay,
Well, look at
well,
him now.
if that's okay, then if you wanna say then that's fair, okay. Well, then what is it that Caleb Ferguson's necessarily done over an extended period of time where you'd say he's allowed to be on the big league roster and struggle for 2.5 weeks, and then you just
I
say,
just
"Well, he'll figure it out on the big league team." For what?
Why is mums the word when it comes to Caleb Ferguson? Why can't we just be like, this guy needs to go? I mean, he doesn't even need to go because no one would pick him up. Just DFA him, send him down to AAA. If he, wants free agency, by all means, I don't know who's signing you, but it's gotten to that point, and there are people on Twitter who like, Yankees fan, like not fans, but kind of like fanalists or like, like their opinion matters type of people. Like I was like, okay, they know the game. And they're like not even mentioning him. And they came away today. They're like, it might be time for like Louis Seal to get sent down so he could work on some things. I'm like, what are we doing here? If we're sending down Louis Seal and you're not making any mention of this guy, I don't even know what to say. So I don't want to go off on, on a complete tangent right now, although I probably already have about the games and everything. But I think it's the best analogy though. I mean, I really do. I mean, just because you have any sort of investment in something, you have to know when to cut your losses. It really comes down to that. No matter what you're talking about, you don't want to be sitting there wasting your time trying to build a table, okay, that you got on Amazon that doesn't have directions and realize after 4 hours, wow, I still can't build this. I have no directions. Cut your losses. Are you trying to waste the entire day? Stop building the damn table. So, I think it's
Jake has a
really
bunch of unbuilt tables in his house
yeah,
all
no,
over the
that
place.
that I don't even relate to, but you get my point though. It's like
Yeah.
it just feels like, oh, well, we have like a minor investment. It wasn't that big of a trade. It really wasn't. And if it makes you feel any better, the three guys they got from the Dodgers, Vivas is probably playing better than any of those three. And he's in AAA right now. And, he could be called up at some point. I don't know if he will, but he's starting to really come on strong in AAA. So I'm just at the point where I'm like, you know what? Stop trying to save face. I mean, we've seen it before. They have let go of a guy. Clayton Andrews is not anybody you and I were like, wow, I can't wait to watch this guy pitch.
No,
But I
no,
mean,
never.
they literally called him up, did not use him, and then DFA'd him. Like they wasted his options.
Yeah,
So,
they put him on a Delta first class flight. He came to New York and they said, "Go kick rock." That's literally what happened. And that's how we
but
can describe it on the show because it happened. We called him up and then we sent him back down. They said, "Well, he's out of options." So, you lost him.
yeah,
That's
it's
what
just
happened.
I'm so tired of seeing him out there. He
Oh
has
my
no
gosh. You see who's
confidence.
starting tomorrow, by the way?
Who?
Who's okay, don't look. What's the worst case scenario?
The worst case for the
Yep.
Yankees?
Yep.
Rodon.
Yeah.
Right now. I mean, I'm just being
Well, it
honest.
is right
I'm not
now,
trying to
isn't
be a
it?
jerk.
Well, the game
But
isn't here in a few hours, so it is right now. Right now, Carlos Rodon is the worst possible option that the Yankees have on the mound. Now, of course, he can still win. It's baseball, but right now, Carlos Rodon has absolutely no command. He's getting shelled. He's giving up homers. Those are just the numbers that no opinion has been offered so far. When you're giving up homers, you're walking guys. Your cutter is not moving because that's the pitch he was working on. It's not moving. Okay. Your ERA is now 4.5. Okay. This is after a strong start. His ERA was in
yeah.
the twos. Incredibly strong start. Very similar to what we were talking about with Ferguson. He had a strong stretch. There was like a decently long stretch. And the numbers still are, if I told you Rodon would be at a 4.5 at this stage in the season, we'd be like, shit. It's bad. So yeah, we've got
Yeah.
Rodon on the mound tomorrow. He's gotta locate, is what it is. If he's not locating, I expect this to be a shellacking. And so it very simply put, if you can't locate your fastball, and that's Carlos Rodon's bread and butter, it's gonna be a long day at the yard. So let's just hope for the best.
So I also want like as we wrap this up, when we kind of briefly previewed this game, before the off day, We talked about it. This is a very top heavy lineup. This is not a good lineup. And pretty much today was indicative of that. I mean, De La Cruz 2 for 5, Candelario 1 for 4, Steer 1 for 3. Benson had the 2 ribby day at the bottom of the order. After that, I mean, it was just a bunch of zeros in the hit column. They only
Yeah.
had 5 hits. And so that's the thing that's so frustrating is that, and this is why I think Ferguson cost him the game. I really do. And I'm actually willing to go as far as to put the game on Ferguson because that was just unacceptable. That was pathetic. That was, like I said, that was the Lou Trevino special. It might say in the box score after, oh, he gave up no runs. He must have had a good day. That's how you can tell who's a box score watcher and somebody actually watched the game. Because when people would say Lou Trevino didn't give up any runs, why are you getting on him? I'm getting on him because he gave up an effing grand slam. Okay.
Yeah, I'm like, did you have
Like,
Yes Network? Because
I'm
we're
like,
watching two
are you
different games.
serious? Like,
Yeah.
and so that just, it felt more like that. And yeah, it makes me really bitter. Hopefully Scott Efros, when he gets called up and JT Brubaker, when they're done with their rehab assignments, they can supplant him. There's no need to even have him in the bullpen right now. He's just, at some point or another, we have to realize there's not many relievers right now that have an ERA over 5. Okay. There's just not. This is one of the worst relief pitchers in baseball currently. And we're just acting like, oh, okay, it's just put in Ferguson because he'll have, every now and then he'll have a good, appearance.
I actually love having guys like this in the bullpen. Like, this might sound sick, but
Torture.
do you ever like get joy out of everyone rallying behind how bad a guy is?
No, I just, my thing is, if you're not doing your job, GTFO. Like I've had it up to here with Ferguson, man. Like, I tried to be nice and we were on the show and he was going through his 11 inning run. We're like, wow, Ferguson's really pitched well. We gave him credit. And then he fell off a freaking cliff. And it goes to show you, we can sit here all day and talk about, these relief pitchers and all that. Well, Tommy Kahnle, who's 35 and is dealing with all sorts of injuries in his career, came back, didn't have any velocity on his fastball, but do you know what? He was still striking guys out through 17 straight changeups and had more success than pretty much Ferguson has, despite those 11 innings, at any point this year. So sorry, miss me with that. I trust Tommy Kahnle, who's just fresh off an injury, who looks dominant right now. I trust him over Ferguson. I trust Ian Hamilton, who's currently injured and on the IL. If you tried him out there, he'd probably do just as well as Ferguson right now. This is absolutely not acceptable to have a black hole in your bullpen. We talk about all the time in the lineup. Okay. We say it all the time. Oh, there's, black hole in the lineup. Oh yeah. Grisham or whoever. Right. But dude, this is a bigger black hole because
this was a 5-4 game, Jake. A 5-4 game. So people can say what they want about, well, you can't necessarily blame it on a bullpen guy. Well, when you come into a game,
I want him gone. I'm like totally done with him, Gary. Like I'm not kidding
you. He gives up a run. I just don't know, Jake. I just think,
and then they show his face and he just has this like blank stare. I'm like, are you kidding me right now?
He doesn't exude confidence for you.
No. And here's the thing. It's July, Gary. These aren't high leverage situations. It's freaking July. Every game matters, but it's July. Do you think that gets better in October? Because I sure as hell don't. There's no way.
Oh, if Ferguson was on a mound anywhere in October, I would just crap down my literally shit my pants. I really would. And I can tell you this. I laugh in the regular season when guys stink and we all just go, oh, Ferguson. And people tweet me all day long. Can you believe this guy's pitching? And I can have a laugh at that. But once I get to October, all the fun and games are over. Now I'm actually now we're in championship mode where everything matters for all these teams. I cannot see this guy. I can't. And I'm sure the Yankees, like if you talk to them behind closed doors, they would probably tell you, yeah, we don't see a long-term future for Ferguson pitching in these big spots. But why are we, if we're considering this run against Baltimore in the regular season to come down to 1 or 2 games, well, don't these games in July where Ferguson's just shitting down his leg, don't those matter? In my opinion, you need to go get somebody out there. They're not going to be excellent. Not everybody in your bullpen could be excellent, right? They're not all going to have
Yeah.
2.20 ERAs. We totally understand this, but you can't have a guy whose ERA is approaching 6. That's just not going to work. And so we're in that position now. Ferguson at some point, they need to figure out what they're doing with him, and that should be throwing him in the disposal, because
I mean,
we can't watch much more of it.
April 5.59 ERA, June 7.94 ERA, and or sorry, that was May 7.94 ERA, and then June was 5.40. I just don't know what the hell we're doing. I really don't. He's shown no signs of turning this thing around. They've been harder on better arms in the past. So yeah, that's how I would wrap this show. I want Ferguson gone. Last time I was like, Bickford, there's the door. He got DFA'd. So hopefully tomorrow we wake up and,
that was a good signing.
Hopefully tomorrow we wake up and Ferguson's getting sent down to AAA if he has any options left. If he doesn't, I don't even care. But it's really just at that point, man. You can't have black holes. I can understand a bad outing here and there from Luke Weaver. He's been great pretty much the majority of the year. I can understand a bad outing from Tommy Kahnle. I think he had a few of those at the beginning, and because he was coming back from an injury. But, I mean, this just isn't acceptable. When you have just a dominant bullpen performance, we're talking about 4 innings of 1-hit ball and 4 strikeouts and no runs out of Cousins, Kahnle, and Weaver. I just, that's where I draw the line on Ferguson, because at the end of the day.
Pray. Let's pray for Rodon, because that's the situation we're in. We just got to pray, because
and now you don't have Weaver tomorrow.
No, we don't have Weaver tomorrow, but there is nothing in the short term that says Carlos Rodon is going to succeed tomorrow. Absolutely nothing. You can absolutely, the point you brought up, Cincinnati they don't necessarily have the depth offensively. So if Rodon is inside the strike zone to the first 4 or 5 hitters in their lineup and he's ahead of hitters, we expect him to have success. But based on what we've seen the last 3 or 4 starts, he hasn't been throwing a lot of strikes. And if you're getting guys on base in this Cincinnati lineup, guys are going to be running all over the place. I mean, they're going to put up 7 or 8 runs tomorrow. And it's not what you want to see. And we're going to hope differently, because this is Yankees Unloaded, not Cincinnati Reds Unloaded. And we're going to have to cover it. So let's hope for the best.
Yeah. I think there's a chance that Cousins could be available tomorrow as well as Kahnle, but I'll tell you who will be on the mound tomorrow at some point. Our guy, Michael Tonkin, Mr. Old Reliable. And I'm okay with that. Because
Tonkin and Holmes, we're going to see them tomorrow.
Yeah, I think
actually maybe Holmes. Not. It depends. If Rodon gets shelled, then we wouldn't.
I think they'd pitch Holmes anyway. They got to keep him, and this is the weird situation they're in. They got to keep pitching him, because we've seen when he doesn't have a lot of, he has too much rest, it's not good. And they've kind of figured that out. So I do give them a lot of credit in that regard. And I'm sure they're sitting there like, man, I don't want to have to use my freaking closer in an 8-1 ball game, but they need to get the guy reps. I mean, when he's not, when he's cold, he is cold. So I get it, but that's going to do it. Oh, by the way, Spencer Jones hit another home run. He's starting to really just absolutely turn it on. Him and Brock Selvage are going to represent the Yankees in the...
Can he play left field?
I mean, I don't see why not.
Oh, okay.
He and Selvage are going to represent the Yankees in the Futures game. So
good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
okay. Well, I wouldn't be upset if he played left field right about now, because
no. I mean, I've gotten to the point where when you have guys like, Grisham's hitting in the 130s or whatever, and it's like all bets are off at that point. You can't justify keeping, if you really feel like you need it, I'd call up Spencer Jones. I wouldn't have any issue. And I'll say this, if it's significant with Jason Dominguez and say he has a setback or he can't get back by October, they're going to try Spencer Jones in September. He's going to be a late season call up. They're going to try to ramp him up, I think. And then there's a chance he could play in October. I'm not saying he will, but I'm saying definitely don't be surprised if he's called up in September.
There's a glimmer of hope.
Yes, there is. And if he continues to hit like this, because he was not hitting like this and was also banged up, if he continues to hit like this, it's going to change a lot of the plans the Yankees have in place right now.
Yeah.
So
you're not wrong.
That's going to do it. Talked about GameStop and Spencer Jones and, pretty much torch and pitchforks for Caleb Ferguson and Aaron Judge's 32nd. But we appreciate you guys hanging out and hanging around for a, longer episode. Tough loss, but always fun coming on here, talking with my guy Gary about it. Regardless, win or loss, it's always fun talking on Yankees Unloaded. But we appreciate you guys. Be sure to like, subscribe, and comment, and we will see you guys in the next episode.
And pray for Rodon and like this video.